Welcome, sports fans, to the latest edition of The Chatter. We're here to talk about college football this week. I'm Clifford Davis.
Michael Ponce.
And I'm Billy Maxwell.
Well, sports fans, let's get right into it because we got a lot to talk about. Right now, California's governor is saying that schools are most likely out until the fall. LA plans to extend their stay at home to possibly August. And the NCAA president said a lot this last few weeks, starting with campus must be open in some form to hold athletics in the fall. He said that tests are one possible variable to opening up. And also, they've said that each campus must make its own decision, that the NCAA is not going to set a start date for college football. And his latest thing was it's almost inevitable that college athletes will get COVID-19 because college athletes or college sports is such a big thing. Currently, right now, though, they also have a recruiting dead period through June 1st, and NCAA Division I Council still has on-campus activities banned through May 31st. What do you guys think about all that?
It's definitely going to be a new experience on if there's going to be a season, and if there is, what does it look like for the state of California in particular? Because I've already seen that California State University has already made all their campuses online for the upcoming fall semester. So, what would happen for those, schools and, in that system? I mean, it's just a whole lot of unknown. And I think it's hard to really put into, what's going to happen in 4 months, 5 months. I can understand them being cautious, but I just think it changes too much. A month ago was different than right now. So I think with that being said, this is just a changing thing that, could change next week. We just don't know where it's going to go.
Very true.
I think it's about a bummer with California schools. I mean, what are those players doing? At least they're doing their online courses. They're still working out. What's going to happen when it is time for them to kind of be released and start training with the team and with the coaches? Are they going to be – I don't feel that they're going to be ready to compete against other D1 athletes, other players around the country. I think it's setting themselves back. And I think even if it was one university or all the schools in California, I'm pretty sure they're all playing – schools outside the state of California, at least they're schedule-wise. That's the thing. It's is it fair that one whole dang state in the United States is not being able to play and while everybody else is getting back to normal? I think this is still, like Billy said, it's really the unknown. There's two sides to it. Obviously, there's another side about there needs to be football, right? There's money involved and things like that. So, I mean, I'm interested in seeing how that kind of plays out, but I'm kind of bummed being out in California, right, and not being able to watch some sports, and it kind of trickles into the pro leagues too. So we'll see what happens with that.
Well, I think they're also trying to look at it from, I think before it was more of a how do we stop everyone from getting it to now it's more of a the NCAA president Mark Emmert said it's inevitable. The college athletes are going to eventually get COVID-19. You can't stop everyone from getting it, but does that mean that all life needs to stop in the meantime? It's one of those things where I believe the NCAA is a little bit hurting college football right now, just making it where nobody can do anything. Even virtual recruiting is not allowed right now, which I believe is hurting college football. Because if you know that you need those guys and you know that, hey, potentially this guy's going to go to the school and enroll for the fall, well, you could be working on getting that guy on the team and also sending him a schedule. Hey, you need to be working on these things. Here's your workout for the next however long. This is what we would like you to try to eat, maybe weigh the guys, see who's overweight or underweight or where do they need them? But telling all schools that they can't recruit anybody, they can't talk to anybody, it seems really unnecessary. And it seems like they're not going by the same rules as the rest of us through working at home and doing things like we're doing right now, talking through Zoom.
Yeah, I think even if there, there's a lot of unknown with when the college football can start, I think that it's doing a disservice to the players, like specifically that they can't have communication with a team or even knowing, because a lot of these guys, like that's all they have. That's all they have to look forward to, or that's all that's their chance. And this potential like being delayed even more. I think it's not right to at least I mean, obviously you can't meet in person, but I mean, why can't you do it over Zoom or just a phone call, just like checking up on the person, because that's another thing that I feel like isn't being played into the situation is that they're like, all right, well, you're on your own, good luck. But a lot of people already kind of feel like in a lone place and in quarantine or whatever situation they're in, and not having anyone check up on them, I don't think is the right move.
And those coaches know them pretty well for the most part, especially once you get to the specialty coaches and they work directly with those individual players. They may know that there's a situation going on with a player at home, but they're not allowed to communicate with them. So, you really are hurting the system in itself by limiting what the schools can do when there's a possibility that they can do something safely.
Yeah, I mean, I guess with like recruiting, because it's always been like a personal approach, right? You go and sit in with a kid, meet his family, eat his mama's food, his grandma's food. With that not being the case as well, that really takes away like knowing really who that player is, right? You're kind of just basing it off of like, okay, I feel he's all right. Now, yeah, not being able to have any type of contact whatsoever, that's not fair, especially out right now. I mean, never hurts to at least exactly right. You said, Cliff, like with an app, Zoom, Facebook message, whatever. Just a little text message here and there is like just touching base. Hey, brother, how you doing? How's your family and things like that. We still want you to play. We still miss you. All the little woos things. It's just like having a girlfriend, right? You want to have them come over and play for you and be on your team. You need to be able to reach out to them. I don't think it's fair that they're not allowed to have communications with them. That there's time of all times when people need to feel loved and not isolated and forgotten. People. That's a whole nother topic of people. Mental health is just as important as physical health as well. So.
Well, Mike, why don't you lead us into the SEC right now?
Yeah, it's crazy because I think they've been voting about like rescheduling, right? Because especially with some of the states being locked down, we mentioned it before with California, right? I know some of the teams there in the SEC are set to play some of the Pac-12 teams, even here in Texas with the Big 12 teams, right? It's like what's going to happen with the schedule if it happens to be carrying over into September or October, like those 4 or 5 weeks of pre-conference games are they just not going to play them at all? Do you think maybe it is wise to like reschedule just teams who that you can play for money purposes? I mean, it's kind of open up to discussion. Didn't really have an idea of what are you thinking? Like what would be best?
I think at the end of the day, college football wants a way to have revenue and money coming in, and I think they're going to try to play those games. For example, TCU and Alabama. TCU goes to Berkeley to play Cal on the same weekend that USC is supposed to go to AT&T Stadium and play Alabama. Those might not happen with the whole quarantine order that the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, has. If TCU went to California, they would have to have a quarantine period of 14 days whenever they came back to Texas. So I think if this is still going on, I can see more teams maybe going on to, oh, well, you play this team the same week I play this team, but that can't happen anymore. So let's play each other and, try to get, a whole 12-game system or a whole 12-game like season out there. So I think that'll be the number one priority is just making sure they can play the 12-game season before looking at other like venues of, not playing like, maybe only playing conference games instead.
Yeah, no, it's like it's weird because it's a 14-day quarantine. It's legit too because obviously I stay in California right now. Last month I flew here, Texas, spend time with family during this time. I had to self-quarantine myself. Literally, as soon as you get off the airplane, I landed at DFW before I had my layover to come down to San Antonio. And as soon as you step off the plane, kid you not, like, right, when you normally scan your little placard to go in, it's like, boom, there's like 15 cops. And there's like, they line you up and like, hey, how long, like, where are you going? Where are you headed? How long are you here for? And, if you say anything in Texas, or if you're staying in Texas, they pull you over to the side. They read you this whole little placard. You fill out a bunch of information. So it's like, I mean, it's a little scary, right? I mean, it's just one of those. And if they're going to be doing that for all the players, that's the thing. It's like, if that was that same thing is in case, it's like, obviously, if TCU players are going to California, they play that weekend, right? They're coming back. Now, do they have to wait 14 days for them to be able to travel to another game, or do they have to stay at home for 14 days? It just doesn't make sense. So, yeah, I mean, rescheduling, again, revenue, just like you hit it on. It's at the end of the day, money talks. It's like, hey, we're going to – TCU and Alabama, you guys are going to play because we're going to make $50 million because people are going to watch this game rather than not anything that week, right? That's –
Well, and you got to look at, like, are you just going to isolate players from everybody else? Because what happens when one of the players gets COVID-19 and they've been around the rest of the team? Are you isolating the entire team after that? I mean, how is that going to work out? There's a lot of variables that they still got to figure out. And I think we as a country kind of got to start realizing that, hey, there's no quick cure to this. And we can't just stay at home and hide ourselves from the virus forever. We have to get back to normal eventually. It's just those, be responsible things that you can implement to make sure that everybody is staying safe as much as possible. You can't stop it all, but, you can try to mitigate it at least,
I think a lot of it's going to have to go into the whole testing. Testing, I think, is going to be the biggest friend in the whole situation, is getting testing out to, everyone, not just people that are having symptoms, people that are asymptomatic or, just something like that, who seems like nothing's wrong, who are, just carriers of the virus. I think that'll, once that, we get to that point that we can, give the test to anyone, or, to at least the whole football team, if it's still going on and is as severe as it is now, I think that'll be a good thing, because I mean the president of the NCAA said that it's inevitable, which isn't the greatest thing to hear, that it's inevitable for people to get something that is pretty deadly to some. So I think testing has to be the number one priority. Even before getting a season out there, is you have to have testing for everyone.
Well, I mean, also, like we were talking about with rescheduling, I think Pac-12 is the one that's mostly, between California and also New York, really. Those are two ones that are really looking like they're going to struggle to come back to any kind of normalcy for a fall season. So, I mean, this is one of those things where, will we stay with the conferences that exist right now, or are we going to do something different with, like, especially with Pac-12, because any California school is not going to be able to play, most likely. So are we going to go to a smaller Pac-12, or can we do something where there are no conferences? You're going to play regional, like, so Southwest, Southeast, Alabama, Louisiana, those guys would mainly stay and play each other, but maybe Missouri would play somewhere else. Maybe you would have Texas A&M play within a Texas regional. I mean, those are things that make sense to kind of look at. And I mean, especially when we're talking about Alabama playing TCU, that seems like, with both those states opening up, that seems like a reasonable request. Throw those guys on a bus, drive them here, or drive TCU out to them, and let's play a game.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't even be that. They would have the game still slated for AT&T Stadium, so it would be the easiest drive for TCU, like 18 miles up to over to Arlington. So it would be pretty easy for TCU if that was to work out. If USC can't come over here to play, So I think that the whole regional thing does make sense, especially if this is as severe, like continues to be this bad. Um, and it just a lot comes to the unknown. I think it's smart to have all the scenarios looked at, and there's actually a couple that the NCAA has, thought of, and the first one is just that everything goes as normal. There's fans of the games, whole 12, whole 12 games slate. Everything is as it is normally. Another scenario they have is it starts in September, but with no fans, which is kind of what March Madness tried to do, but it ended quickly. And, the college tournaments for basketball were all canceled. Another one would be starting at around October, but only doing conference games instead of, the non-conference games like Alabama, TCU, for example. If that was to happen, wouldn't happen, or the USC, Alabama, whatever the scenario is. That could be another scenario, or waiting until November, December, or even as late as like January 2021 to start the season. So what do y'all think would be, with the unknown, what would make the most sense for you? And if it did have to wait until January 2021, how would that look for other sports, or how would it play out? Because you need 4 months for college football, and then having your college football playoffs. How would that play into other sports, and how would that what do y'all think that would turn out? How that would turn out?
Pushing it back. I mean, that's the thing is, I'll be an advocate for just canceling it. Unfortunately, right? Because I actually had plans in September. Texas and LSU play there in Baton Rouge, and I think that had been. It's weighing on me to want to go out there. But that same thing is that same weekend, the Cowboys play the Rams. They visit LA and play. Obviously this is pro football. So like that weekend itself is kind of one of those like, I rather it be canceled altogether. Like, hey, everybody can't play. Just cut 2020 out of the entire just life, right? It's just been the worst year as a sports. Well, people even losing lives, but just as a sports fan in general, right? I mean, I would be on board with just canceling altogether, rescheduling. I think it'd be unfair. But if they did push it back, as long as if it's safe, man. I mean, I'm that's the thing is I would probably be one of those guys who be in the fans. I'd go like, hey, if it's okay, if the law says we can go to the games, I'm going to the games, right? I mean, that's me personally. I'm open for anything. Just whatever needs to be done.
I'm with you on that. I'd be going to the games too. They open it back up. I mean, it's something to do right now. There's not that much to do. And I think a lot of people are just hoping to see sports come back, so that it brings them a little bit of, it takes them away from the COVID-19 and they can relax and watch something that they love, and college football is one of those things that just has such a huge following that it would be great for them to come back. I think that if college football sticks around, or whatever college football decides to do, the rest of the sports are going to follow. College football is the cash cow. If they decide that they're going to push back their season, everybody else will. If they start in January, basketball is going to start in January, and then baseball is going to work around whatever all the other sports are doing, and it's going to be the same thing with the rest of college sports. Hopefully, though, I think the ideal of the regional look at states that are around each other, so that way you could bus people together rather than try to have people cram into planes and potentially spread a lot more. I think that's a good ideal. I think they have to start without fans, though. It makes sense, and you just wouldn't have a stadium packed full of fans, because all it takes is one of them to get there, have the virus, and then how many more are going to leave that stadium that day with the virus? Until we really get it here, I don't see fans coming back.
Yeah,
I would have to agree. I'm trying to think. It was the lieutenant governor of Texas, and I can't I'm drawing a blank on names, but he stated that, fans are ready to come back to live sports. And I agree. I think fans are, ready to come back and, see a game live and not watch a classic game from, 5 years ago, and seeing fans in the in the arenas or the stands and be like, man, I wish I was there. I understand that people want to be at venues. And he was stating that, having at 25% capacity of like the actual arena or stadium or whatever, venue it is, and saying that, you wouldn't be in contact with all those people. You'd only be in contact with people around you. But even with that, you could be only in contact with people around you. But what if that person is in contact with someone on the other side of the stadium, or, has to do, one of the concession lines too long and, has to go to the other side, and then they're in contact with more people over there. So I think that whole thing, I just don't see fans going to, big, large gatherings like that until there is a cure or, treatment or something, because it just moves too quickly, and the incubation period just is too long to determine, if you have it or if you don't have it.
Eventually, the cash rules everything. I mean, cash is king. It's going to be one of those, like, if they're not revenue, if they're not getting it, they'll find a way to start getting an influx of money. But I mean, that's the thing, is it's so early, right? We're still in May, and we're talking about sports that don't really, well, the actual seasons, right? They start in September, so you never know. Like you brought up at the first time, everything could change by tomorrow, by next month, 2 months from now. But if the league was supposed to start tomorrow, I'm pretty sure right now we're all canceled, right? It'd be similar like to what happened with all the spring sports with March Madness and stuff. It's just, nope, no one's traveling, everyone's locked down. You're staying at home. You're still doing your online Zoom classes. If this was to happen tomorrow.
Well,
I think a lot of –
go
sorry.
ahead.
I was just going to say a lot of it, just go with the whole unknown factor. I mean, it is like, it's only May 16th, and, that they have to be in facilities or whatever, early June or whatever, to get, training for the upcoming season. But, season doesn't start till late August, early September. So, I mean, in that respect, it's a couple months away, but, just unknown is like the biggest thing, because there's not a timetable. Like, we don't know when the timeline is of when, things are going to start opening up or when, this is going to be okay. So I think it's just, that's the whole overarching thing, is just the unknown factor.
Well, speaking about changes and money, Jim Harbaugh called for the NFL draft eligibility reform this last week. And surprisingly, Urban Meyers, who used to be one of his biggest rivals, is in agreement. What do you guys think about what he said?
He was saying, what I took away the most of it is, if a kid obviously wants to leave school early and he doesn't get drafted, he should have the ability to come back to school. And I 100%, I agree on that too. Is for whatever reason, if he feels that he's ready and he doesn't get drafted, he shouldn't have to hold it against him, because some 32 other teams for 7 rounds didn't feel like this kid was ready, whether it's his size, his smarts, whatever, his skills. But I feel that, hey, you can come back. And it's funny about that, Urban Meyer and Jim, right? Obviously they've been rivals, but I think Urban agreeing with Jim, it's always about the kids, right? About the players and stuff. So it's not, they put away their differences, the rivalries, to be like, hey, it's what's good for the kids at the end of the day. And I think they should have the ability to come back. But I think there was always like these small stipulations, right? Can't have an agent, can't get paid or anything like that. Like that, I would still, yeah. It's like, hey, put your name in the draft. You don't get drafted, hey, come on back. Well, obviously the school is going to take you with open arms if you felt you were NFL ready, right? You're going to be a superstar your senior year or whatnot.
Yeah, I think it would be a good input. Or even, with college basketball, they have a period where they can, get scouted by like NBA, scouts, and just see if they would have a chance of getting drafted. I mean, it's a little different. There's only 2 rounds in the NBA draft compared to the NFL's 7. But I mean, it's a good first look on, where do the scouts see you in the draft order. And I think that, saying that you can enter your name into the draft like as maybe as a junior, and if you don't like your placement, then maybe saying, all right, well, I rescinded that, and I'm just going to play out my senior season too. I think that could be played in. Obviously, it's not the same thing, but I think that could be a nice addition to the rule, or what Jim Harbaugh is saying.
Well, I'm with you, Mike. I think it's about the kids. I think you really have to look at, when you tell these kids they can't come back after applying for the draft, and there's so many that don't end up making it, right? Well, what's to stop them from coming back and finishing out, their college education? They can keep playing, keep on scholarship, and still keep on playing. So that way, they can make something of themselves and at least help their future. It's kind of really cynical to say, oh, you didn't make it in the NFL draft, you're not coming back to college either. It just really seems wrong. I completely agree with Jim Harbaugh on that one. I think that they should make some changes, allow these kids to come back, especially now. Like you look at Major League Baseball, right? They cut out a lot of their draft rounds. They cut it down to 5 rounds of draft. So how many kids from college baseball didn't get selected this year? And it's all due to COVID-19. There's a lot of them that would have got selected. And now, what's it going to be for minor league baseball too? Those different minor leagues are going to struggle to continue on. And now you're going to have college baseball as more of a minor league. So those guys shouldn't be allowed to come back once they enroll in the draft. I think that all sports, period. If you're not selected, okay, then it was like you never left college football. That's it. And, okay, maybe on the other end, you don't get to try to go for the NFL draft again. Maybe once you graduate, you're a free agent, and that's that. It still gives them a shot to develop, to continue their education, and it gives them a route still to the NFL.
Yeah, and then going off of just briefly with the MLB, changing theirs to 5 rounds. They also said that anyone who's a free agent, their max contract they can get is $20,000. So what would that mean for those players that have been selected in the later rounds, like Lorenzo Cain, Dallas I've never been able to say his last name correctly, but the Houston Astros pitcher, who I think now is with the Yankees. Those guys have been selected and past the 5th round, have gone and have successful careers. What does it mean for them? They're only getting $20,000 a year. That's, not really livable, in a bigger city, if they were drafted by the Yankees or, the LA Dodgers. So what does that mean for those players? Will they just, say, well, I guess I'm just going to go get, a real job? What would that look like for them? And I think it would hurt the sport. And I think that college baseball will, especially this year, with the eligibility of the seniors that were, supposed to graduate this year, I think that it'll really boost up college baseball. But that's a whole other topic. This isn't about college baseball. But I think it'll just help that sport out tremendously.
Well, what have you guys been watching here lately?
YouTube clips. Actually, this morning, speaking of that, the German league for I'm talking about other sports, right? It's like, we want to keep it with college sports. At least that's our title. But I found it interesting this morning. Actually, I think it's still going on right now. Is the German league opened up, but no fans, right? So, and the first game this morning, it had Dortmund, which is known for like their stadium. They had like this big old wall that has like thousands of fans. Like it's like on top of it, like get a chance. It's just kind of like a wall. It's not like your traditional like arenas, right, where there's different sections. It's literally just a whole wall. Then normally, and they always have their flares, their drums, their flags, and it's an awesome sight. But this time they're playing with no fans, and it's weird because they scored 4 goals, right? This team, they won 4-0, and when they scored the first time, it's like it was just weird celebrations. Like they were looking towards the crowd, and even the players themselves realized like, Okay, yeah, it's just as they turn around, they're dabbing with each other's elbows. But I did find it interesting too because you can kind of hear the players talking, like the audio was out there, so you can hear the players communicating. Obviously, they're speaking German. I don't speak German, but you could tell that they're communicating with each other. The coaches are barking orders, right? I thought that was pretty interesting. I'm actually would love to maybe even mic up the captains, mic up the coaches, get more infill depth of that type of. I mean, I would like that if that got implemented in college football. If we ever decided not to play with crowds, is I would like to at least hear players instead of just hearing the commentators. I want to hear the players talk about what they're doing. Maybe it's kind of like the XFL deal. But that's what I watched that this morning. The German league. That was pretty cool.
Well, and then even with that, NASCAR is gonna play their first race live since COVID-19 started this Sunday, and I never really I wasn't really a NASCAR fan, but I'm probably gonna watch it just because it's a live event, and I'm tired of watching games from 5-6 years ago that I already know the outcome, but I just wanted sports. So I think there'll be a lot more fans watching NASCAR, and I think that could really help out NASCAR too. Just having something live to watch.
Well, I'm definitely going to tune in for some NASCAR this weekend. But I know y'all have been watching Korean baseball too, right? Y'all seen that?
Oh yeah, I definitely watched that yesterday.
They got figures in the stands instead of actual fans, just to make it look like somebody's there. It was definitely interesting. They had a little kid in a bubble come out to throw the first baseball, which of course he can't throw the ball within the bubble, so he just rolls the home plate. So that things like that. I mean, it's at least something to watch. It gives us something to entertain ourselves. But again, it's one of those things where we got to change with the times.
Yeah. I agree. And with all that being said, I hope that y'all find this enjoyable and, just something to see with college football, what we think is going to go on. And I hope y'all stay safe out there.
Enjoy, sports fans. Hopefully we'll tune in again and have something for you later. Enjoy.
Later, guys.